Fox 45 News taking concerns over failing city schools directly to the mayor, pressing him for answers on what's being done. An overperforming charter school could lose its right to teach kids, the hearing that could decide its fate. And a Baltimore woman in critical condition after bullets hit her in her home. What investigators have learned so far.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
We are following multiple stories on Baltimore's crisis in the classroom. In under an hour, a charter school reporting higher graduation and college placement rates than the school system's average could be recommended for closure.
First, we're investigating failing city schools after a Project Baltimore report found more than 20 schools in the city have no students proficient in math. Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Our team coverage starts with Mackenzie Frost, who took those concerns over city school test scores to Mayor Brandon Scott today. Mackenzie, what do you have to say?
Well, Mary and Kai, as you know, the mayor has ignored our questions about this issue for several days now. We've sent emails to his office, even showing up to other events where the mayor was supposed to be, only to really get no response. Earlier today, we had the opportunity to ask the mayor directly at an unrelated event, and Mayor Brandon Scott says that it's really on everybody to ensure students are seeing success in the classroom. The mayor also says that the test results and these math proficiency scores that everyone has been talking about and raising questions about were not surprising. Given that fact that he said that, we asked him why wasn't more done to ensure students were prepared to take this test in the first place.
In my response, I already gave you a response, right? And again, you comparing to one, I said the state, jurisdictions across the state and how city schools have made progress. And they did a lot of work, right? This work is going to be continual.
Now, the mayor says that when you look at test scores from Baltimore City and compare it to around the state, Baltimore City has improved when it comes to closing that gap. But we also know that city schools rank last when it comes to proficiency in math when you look at those same test scores. The mayor says that he will continue to push city schools to make sure that students are improving. But we also know that he really hasn't talked about specifics to take immediate steps to help prepare students for success outside of the classroom. We also had the opportunity to ask him about other issues within Baltimore City schools. We questioned him about ghost students. You'll hear more about that coming up at 5. But for now, we're live in Baltimore. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Mackenzie. As city schools struggle, a high-performing charter school could be shut down. A hearing on the Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys happens tonight. Now, the school reports its graduation rate is around 95%, and college enrollment over 50%. In city schools, roughly 69% of students graduate on average, and 47% go on to college. Well, leaders at the school believe that they're being unfairly punished for errors that they say can be easily fixed. Keith Daniels is live right now at City School headquarters in Baltimore ahead of a meeting that could help determine that school's fate. Keith.
Well, Guy, that meeting kicks off here in about an hour. A critical decision to be made here while parents, students, and officials at that charter school watch and wait. Now, the school's future rests in the hands of Baltimore City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises. Now, the charter school is one of 11 up for renewal. An effectiveness evaluation finding Boys Collegiate the only charter failing in several categories. Failures, Edwin Avent, the charter CEO, describes as simple technicalities such as missing paperwork or data entry errors. Avent calls the possibility of the charter being shut down disappointing, saying the school gives students so much more than just a stellar education.
We get to do things in the school that others in the city probably would appreciate. Like, we get to tell our boys every day, pull your pants up, put your belt on, straighten your tie. I want you to wear shoes to school, tie your shoes up. Let's show you how to tie a tie. Shake my hands. Make eye contact, smile when you talk to people. These are the soft skills that so many of our boys need to become more successful in life.
Well, Dr. Santelises is expected to give a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners today, and then sometime next week, the Board of Commissioners take their vote, the final vote on this measure. They have the final decision. We're live now at City Schools headquarters. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, and as Keith just mentioned, the school's future now hangs in the balance. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker visited the charter school today. She joins us live with more insight on this. Maxine?
Well, Mary, the CEO for the Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys says that they're being threatened to be shut down over what he calls just simple technicalities. He said it would alter the lives of more than 300 boys in the city if they're forced to close.
Hey, how are you today, sir?
At the Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys in North Baltimore, young men dressed in suit and tie are sitting down for lunch.
The day's not over yet.
But when it is, the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners will hear from City Schools CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises, who will give her recommendation on whether or not the all-boys charter school should shut down.
It's been the talk of the school that the possibility that we could get a recommendation of non-renewal for our charter.
Edwin Avent, the school CEO, says their charter is in jeopardy over what he calls technicalities.
Well, there's a variety of reasons that they may point to. One of the areas that was pointed out to us was in the area of operator capacity. There's several things that you have to do on a day-to-day basis in running a school, whether it's filing paperwork correctly, filing attendance correctly, handling suspensions. On occasions, my young team that I have in place made an error or two.
But the city's report claims the charter's teaching practices and staffing levels are also falling short.
Where should you be?
But Avent says the school has led many young men to success since they first opened in 2018.
It's not just what happens in the classroom. The reason why we believe these boys are persisting when they get into high school and staying on track, a lot of it is the work that we're doing around nurturing them and loving them and teaching them how to carry themselves.
They continue to track their students when they leave for high school, and Avent says about 95% of them so far have graduated. In city public schools, just 67% of students graduate.
Yeah, right now everybody's in class.
So you see, Avent says if these classrooms were to be empty next year, leaving more than 300 boys looking for a new school, it would be devastating.
Let's go, let's go. In a city that's desperate, in my opinion, for good news stories, particularly around young African-American males, when, we don't have as many recreation centers or as many activities as we could to try and help the community, to take one more away, one, I think, shining light in the city away that's helping African-American boys would be tragic. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Well, the school will be given just 4 minutes to plead their case to the board on Thursday. Reporting live in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Maxine. That brings us to our question of the day. Should parents be given school choice if their child's school is failing? So far, 94% of voters say yes. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Two people accused of plotting to attack local power grids have been indicted. Sarah Clendaniel from Catonsville and Brandon Russell from Orlando, Florida, are charged with conspiracy to destroy an energy facility. The two were allegedly planning to destroy multiple electrical substations, including some right here in the Baltimore area, hoping to cause widespread power outages. If convicted, the two could each face up to 20 years in prison.
The Baltimore County Police detective, who investigators say was shot by David Linthicum, is reportedly improving. According to the president of the county FOP, doctors have removed Detective Jonathan Chee's breathing tube. He's now able to talk. Linthicum is accused of shooting Detective Chee and another police officer. Yesterday, Linthicum waived his bail review and will remain in custody until his preliminary hearing next month.
Well, as Baltimore County Police continue to investigate a string of violent crimes in recent weeks, law enforcement officials are weighing in on the situation in Towson. The most recent incident, a shooting just outside the Towson Circle Sunday night. Former West Virginia Police Chief Maury Richards spoke with Fox 45 News, saying the issues in Towson are likely connected to Baltimore City crime as well.
It's a combination of both. I mean, you have city criminals going out there. You probably have criminals moving out there. What it takes, and I know the city and the county do this, but they really have to, kick up high levels of cooperation, among the police, gang units, violent crime, but also now, with the state's attorneys. Scott Schellenberger's a law and order guy. Now you got Ivan Bates, who believes in putting criminals away. That's good.
Richards also says it's on judges to follow through with strong sentencing to keep violent offenders off the streets and deter other criminals.
In Towson, the Maryland Attorney General's office releases its report into a deadly police shooting last June, and a warning: the video you're about to see is disturbing.
Let me see your hands. Hands.
On June 4th, officers responded to an apartment at Virginia Towers for reports of a disturbance. In the body camera video from officers, you can see 66-year-old Joseph Robert Thompson answer the door, then point a handgun at officers. Thompson and officers Scott Johnson, Jody Klapka, and Robert Fitzgerald all fired their weapons. Thompson was hit 11 times, killing him. Officers later found a woman in the apartment who'd been shot. She told them Thompson shot her after she broke up with him. Baltimore County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger says he is not prosecuting the officers in the shooting.
A woman in critical condition shot in what she thought was the safety of her own home. The latest on the investigation into why somebody opened fire from outside.
Big changes could be coming to Anne Arundel County schools. Why the county executive says redistricting is necessary.
The Baltimore Ravens have a new offensive coordinator. What the hire means for the team ahead of the big offseason.
And heading out for Valentine's Day this evening, looking great, 59 degrees at 4, but we will have a bit of a drop off after sunset into the 40s. I'm going to let you know how much warmer it gets tomorrow and if it comes with a risk of rain. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
A water main break causing traffic delays and road closures in Baltimore County. Philadelphia Road between Notting Ridge and White Marsh Boulevard is shut down. The York Road Bridge over Western Run will also be closed overnight while they try to fix and repair it.
Well, after 21 interviews with 14 candidates, the search for the Ravens' next offensive coordinator is over.
That's right. Baltimore going with Georgia OC and quarterbacks coach Todd Monken, I think that's how you say his name, who happens to have some NFL experience as well. Rocco DeSangro will joins us now with more, and Rocco will get to know his name quite well.
You got it, Mary. Spot on. This week's long search for Greg Roman's replacement, it's in the books. The Ravens opting to go with Todd Monken, a guy who was the OC for the Bucks and Browns, and most recently for the Georgia Bulldogs. Monken, a big reason why UGA won back-to-back national championships. Monken has been able to really adapt wherever he's gone. Go back and watch that 65-7 beatdown of TCU in the national championship game at Georgia. He was really able to unlock Stetson Bennett's full potential, helping him to become a Heisman Trophy finalist in 2022. According to reports, Monken had several options to be an OC in the NFL, but opted to join John Harbaugh's staff in Baltimore. Harbaugh raved about Monken in a statement saying, quote, Todd's leadership and coaching acumen were evident from the beginning. He has a proven track record for designing and teaching offensive systems that allow players to succeed at the highest level. We're excited to get to work, begin building an offense that will help us compete for championships, end quote. With the offensive coordinator position taken care of, all of that focus now, it shifts to getting a new deal done with Lamar Jackson. And that has to be on the mind of Monken. How much will he have to work with the former unanimous MVP? How much time will he have to work with Lamar? And when will that begin? The franchise tag window, that opens exactly a week from today. With every day that goes by, it's looking more and more likely that the Ravens will use that tag on Lamar.
All right, Rocco, thank you. We're looking ahead. Glory Days returns to Charm City. Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band will be stopping by Oriole Park at Camden Yards on their 2023 international tour. The concert is set to take place on September 9th. It'll be their first outdoor concert. And too bad the day isn't today.
Could have an outdoor concert outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a little winter concert at Oriole Park at Camden Yards.
It's hard to believe. You know, I was listening to the radio and one of the DJs was saying, I can't believe it's February 14th. I mean, yeah, I believe that it's Valentine's Day, but I mean, what it's like outside.
You know what? This scares me a bit, though, because it's like we're going to pay in March or something.
Where's the winter?
Right.
Maybe it's someplace. Anyway, yeah, there are indications, actually, by the end of February, beginning of March, things are going to get colder.
All right.
And, you know, this time of year, you could still get some surprises. So at least for the rest of this week into early next week, no surprises. But I guess this is surprising. 60 right now on the Mile 1 Towns Cam. Should be about 47 for an average high. Winds are calm, humidity nice and low at 21%. You can't go wrong with this. 60 here in Baltimore. An outdoor late lunch or dinner maybe with your sweetheart this afternoon. 60 degrees at Cockeysville, 58 at Columbia, 60 with the warmer air nosing in from the south and west. Also coming with it, there are a couple of patchy clouds. You see them here kind of right around, say, Gaithersburg, and actually leads to some rain as you work your way westbound towards Chicago, Milwaukee. You can see the advent of our next weather maker trying to come a bit closer, and this will continue to move east, and eventually some of those showers could get here late tonight into early tomorrow as this warm front comes in from the south. That's a red line that you see there. I think the bigger rains, they wait until later Thursday into Friday as this cold front that's down to the south kind of elongates northbound. And eventually, after we've got a couple of days well into the 60s to near 70, will provide us with the next round of rain. I'm believing this is going to be Thursday afternoon, Thursday night into Friday morning. And then you'll feel a big change. Look at these temperatures. Places like Portland, Oregon getting snow today. We've got a temperature at 20 degrees at Billings, 41 now at Seattle, 32 at Bismarck. So where's the cold? Well, there it is. Eastern two-thirds of the country in response getting unusually abnormally warm. All the way up toward Boston in the 50s, 54 New York, we're at 60, and we're only the tip of the warm iceberg, if you will. You get down to the south, we're into the 60s to near 70, and we could be seeing temperatures close to that as we head into tomorrow and maybe even into Thursday. So the future scan overnight tonight into early tomorrow, there are those stray spritzes here and there, maybe even a a little better chance of a shower towards sunrise tomorrow. After about, say, 11 to noon, it's dry again. And look at those temperatures with some clearing into the 60s again tomorrow afternoon. And then look at this into Wednesday, another day, although a little bit wetter here as showers develop into the 60s. I think that's a wetter day for sure on Thursday, especially during the midday and the afternoon hours. So again, for tomorrow, after a morning shower or two, we do clear a little in the afternoon. That helps pump us up into the mid to upper 60s. I think we'll be in the mid 60s again on Thursday. Again, this is about 20 degrees above average for this time of year. A few morning showers left over on Friday as this latest weather maker moves out. We're only at about 50 there. I think our temperatures put on the brakes during the day on Friday. Blustery too, chillier, blustery as well on Saturday. Low 27, high 48, but we're back at it again. With mid to upper 50 Sunday, Monday, Tuesday could be into the 60s. Maybe some spot showers coming for Tuesday, and that's our next cold front. Some indications are by later on next week, could get colder air in here and maybe some storm systems. There could be maybe 1, 2, 3 risks of wintry weather as we head towards the end of February into early March. But still, that's outside of a week's time frame, so a lot to watch here after next Tuesday.
We are taking a look at your Valentine's Day pictures. Juanita in North Baltimore sent us pictures of her granddaughters. Very cute, very pretty. Love these pictures. And Diane from Friendship also sent us this picture. She says, this is Patch, a 3-month-old Maltipoo. Happy Valentine's Day to you both. Myra also sent us her Valentines from Sandtown. Looks like a great assortment right there. Very cute. We still have a couple of hours left for Valentine's Day, so we'd like to see your pictures. Please send them to us online at foxbaltimore.com/chime-in or through the WBFF mobile app.
His confirmation pushed back why lawmakers are waiting to make a final call on one of Governor Wes Moore's key appointees on juvenile crime. 3 flying objects shot down over U.S. territory, the latest on the federal government's response and how the president is handling the public's concerns. The U.S. government has now shot down 3 unidentified flying objects this month. The first, a Chinese spy balloon, the other 2 still not identified. But leaders are now saying they do not believe they are part of China's spy balloon program. Chief Political Correspondent Scott Thuman live for us now from Washington. Scott, thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Tell us what the latest information is from intelligence officials on what exactly these flying objects were and the type of threat that they posed.
Yeah, so Mary, there was this closed-door classified briefing today for senators here on Capitol Hill, and there was at least one bit of consensus that came out of it, and all the senators that at least spoke to the microphone there immediately outside the meeting said that they don't believe that there was any risk because of these devices, these objects as they were being called, that there was no threat to people on the ground. That doesn't mean that they may not have been collecting intelligence, despite the fact that there are some who think that what they have gleaned from reports is that they are benign in nature. But nonetheless, aside from that first balloon, there is some sort of indication that they might have been benign. If they are indeed not posing any sort of risk, then the question becomes, what is the intent of them? Who's behind them? How many are there that have not been detected? And what kind of concern does that pose for the U.S. government and the public at large? And that's where they say they need more information, not just from the DOD, but they're also asking for some sort of update directly from the president.
Were they able to glean any information why we're seeing so many of these things now we haven't seen in the past? Is it just that we are looking closely now?
That's part of the reason, and they have addressed that by saying that they have fine-tuned the ability to look for them, know what to try and pick up on, and then assess what they're looking at. So there is some sort of recalibration that's taken place technologically by the Pentagon to pick up on these more often. However, we also understand through other reporting that China may have been ramping up its program for these high altitude, these sort of so-called near space flights that, if they are used for surveillance, may be on an increased level. That would be one of the other reasons. But it was also revealed today by one of the senators immediately after that briefing that this has been going on for years. We know that there were 3 incidents that at least took place during the Trump administration that weren't immediately picked up on. But there's some sort of belief now that this has been maybe going on since 2016, 2017. That still needs to be sorted out.
And Scott, there seems to be some pressure building for President Biden to address this with the public. Do you think that will happen soon?
Yeah, a lot of pressure, in fact. And I don't know. You know, the White House press corps has been pushing the press secretary every day, including John Kirby as well, saying, why are we not hearing from the president? Neither one of them have come up with any real firm answer on why that hasn't taken place. People are saying it is highly unusual to have U.S. fighter jets shooting down objects over North American space, and therefore they say it's of a level of importance that the president should address this and talk to the American public. White House continuing to say that there is nothing to panic about, and that's kind of the end of the conversation, but I don't think that's going to satisfy especially Republican critics who continue to harp on that talking point, saying this is a big deal. Where's the president? Why can't he answer some of these questions? Or at least, if there's nothing to worry about, let him say that to the American people, and maybe that will happen in due time. But so far, no indication that the president plans to address the people with an update on this situation.
He just might have to if reporters keep asking questions, which I think they will. Scott Thuman live in Washington, D.C. for us tonight. Thank you.
Anytime.
Well, shots fired from the street into her home. The new questions tonight as a Baltimore woman is in critical condition. It's not just Baltimore City schools that are struggling. A Project Baltimore investigation now looking into poor test scores in Baltimore County.
In a city in crisis, there are questions after police say someone opened fire in a southeast Baltimore home, critically injuring a woman.
Alexa Asheville talked with neighbors, joins us live with the latest on this investigation. Very scary for this woman.
Mary, definitely. In fact, you can still see the bullet holes in the window there where they're pierced through the home. A 51-year-old woman, we're told, inside, struck by some of those bullets. But so far, no word on a suspect.
Detectives and crime scene technicians returned to this house here in southeast Baltimore's Elwood Park neighborhood, where investigators say early this morning someone fired multiple rounds into the home.
604 North Clinton for discharging. The complainant heard, she just heard 4 gunshots at the location.
Police arriving to find a 51-year-old woman shot and critically injured inside of the home here on North Clinton Street.
I can't imagine how they feel. I can only imagine how I would feel if that was one of my family members.
Baltimore police are not yet saying what investigators believe was the motive in the shooting, nor if the woman was the intended target.
When you look at it initially, you think drugs, you think somebody's some kind of vendetta, somebody owes somebody some money for some drugs, but 51-year-old woman, wow.
Neighbors troubled yet not surprised by the crime.
You get used to it. I mean, it's so much crime, so much shooting in this area that you just get used to it. And it's a shame, but...
Many telling Fox 45 News vacant properties and squatters help feed the issues and even violence in this community.
It's problematic on this street.
Neighbors leaving the investigation up to police, keeping this 51-year-old woman now fighting for her life in their hearts and minds.
I feel sorry for her. But like I say, sometimes you just get numb to this stuff around here, because it happens so much.
Back out here live again, you can see where those bullets went through the home here on North Clinton Street. We asked, police have not yet said if anyone else was inside the home at the time of the shooting. Police have not yet identified this woman or released any suspect information, including a potential vehicle. We, of course, will continue to follow this investigation as it develops. For now, reporting live in southeast Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Well, after a hearing last night in Annapolis, the committee decided to wait before making a decision on the governor's pick to lead the Department of Juvenile Services, Vincent Schiraldi. While Schiraldi has worked in multiple corrections departments and social work research facilities, some are taking issue with comments he's made related to when people should be charged as adults. Once writing, it may not be appropriate to do so until a person is 25 years old. During last night's meeting, Schiraldi was pressed on what he will do to address Baltimore's crime crisis.
What are your specific plans and approaches to violent juveniles?
If they're in custody, I want to expand the kinds of programs that are going to help those young people turn their lives around. The ones that are in the community, again, we need high-intensity wraparound services for the highest risk young people.
The committee voted to hold off its vote until additional senators can meet with him individually. Representatives say the committee's nomination vote could come later this week before going to the full Senate for a vote.
Fox 45 News is following redistricting plans in Anne Arundel County schools. The proposed changes on this map will divide the county into northern and southern districts. County Executive Stuart Pittman says the change will help with transportation issues and inconsistent class sizes across the school system.
It's something they have to do because we do have 16,000 empty seats and we have overcrowded schools. So some schools don't have enough, some have too many, and we have a couple of new schools opening, which requires the school board to redistrict.
Pittman says the current proposal is nowhere near a final plan and parents will be able to voice their concerns. Comment sessions and hearings will likely be held this summer. A Project Baltimore report ignites outrage, exposing 23 Baltimore City schools where 0 students tested proficient in math.
But as Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, every school system in Maryland takes state testing, and Baltimore City was not the only school system with concerning scores.
Baltimore County State Delegate Nino Mangione is taking a stand.
And what we've seen is a continued failure.
Hours after Fox 45 broke the story that 23 Baltimore City schools have 0 students proficient in state math tests, Mangione, a Republican, posted this on social media. The Baltimore City school system needs a new leader and a complete overhaul.
In Baltimore City, the school superintendent has to go. I believe that she has failed in her duty.
Mangione was not alone. Our reporting caused an outcry on the radio.
When you see stories coming out like this from Project Baltimore, it should make you scream.
Astonishing and so sad.
From parents.
It needs to be something done today. Today.
And community leaders.
I represent the Black Church of Baltimore. We're acting right now.
But poor student outcomes are not just a Baltimore City issue. We found a similar problem in Baltimore County. In late January, the 2022 MCAP state test results were released. Based on their scores, students are placed in one of 4 levels. Levels 1 and 2 are considered not proficient. Levels 3 and 4 are considered proficient. In Baltimore County, we found 7 schools with 0 students who tested proficient in math. That includes Chesapeake, Pikesville, and Randallstown High Schools, and Crossroads Center for middle school students. The other 3 are alternative schools, which Baltimore County says take the same MCAP test, but are not considered accountability schools, as outlined by the Maryland State Department of Education. And the data from those centers and/or programs is evaluated differently. There's another 10 schools with just 1 or 2 students proficient in math. 9 of them are high schools, including Dundalk, Franklin, and Parkville.
That is a total failure of a totally failed education system where, as I said before, finally something needs to be done, and collectively with the politicians to get together to say we need a new direction.
Of the 17 Baltimore County schools with 2 or fewer students proficient in math, 12 are high schools. And that could get worse. We dug into the MCAP results for 8th graders in all of BCPS. 8,505 8th graders took the math test. 684 of them tested proficient. That's 8%. This means 92% of all 8th graders tested in Baltimore County schools are not doing math at grade level.
I think that's not good. We certainly got to do a better job at that.
This is very concerning. I'm very serious about it.
Delegates Carl Jackson and Harry Bendari, both Democrats, represent Baltimore County. They point to the pandemic learning loss as one reason for the MCAP results. In a statement, Baltimore County Schools said it's working urgently to improve and accelerate student learning. Their plan includes targeted tutoring supports, reviewing when and how teachers deliver material, and examining math curriculum for gaps. And unlike Baltimore City, Baltimore County will soon have new leadership. Last month, Superintendent Dr. Darrell Williams announced he will not seek another contract.
I'm definitely looking forward to a new superintendent coming in and helping us kind of change those numbers around.
To address the low scores, Jackson and Bendari point to the Kerwin Plan, which pumps $30 billion additional dollars into public education over 10 years. Kerwin, in part, provides more mental health and tutoring services for students.
So we need to make sure that we look the result and we fix the problem. Be honest about it and be accountable and do better because that is our future.
But Mangione doesn't believe adding more money into the same system is the answer.
This is an absolute tragedy, and the entire system needs to be revamped. School choice, competition, I think it's too big a bureaucracy in education. I think, again, the teachers union has far too much power, and I think this idea that money solves the problem is absolutely incorrect.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
All
Baltimoreans deserve to live in safe, affordable housing. Our neighbors experiencing homelessness are valuable members of our communities, and the onus to support them lies within each one of us.
Local leaders said the city is making progress in its efforts to end homelessness and increase the supply of affordable housing. In 2022, the city joined U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in an all-hands-on-deck approach to address the nation's homelessness crisis.
And I'm pleased to announce today that we didn't just meet our goals, we beat our goals here in Baltimore. In 2022, Baltimore housed 1,443 households, and we are tracking over 2,500 units of affordable housing in various stages from concept to occupancy in our development pipeline.
Baltimore initially set a goal to ensure housing to at least 1,000 families experiencing homelessness and to add at least 1,600 new units of affordable housing.
A big discovery helping to tell the story of Harriet Tubman's life in Maryland. 2 years ago on the Eastern Shore, where Tubman was enslaved, archaeologists found the home of Tubman's father, Ben Ross. Now nearby, they found artifacts which put a face on those enslaved in the surrounding farms. Brad Bell from our Sinclair sister station in D.C. has more.
Well, this is a story we first started following several years ago when archaeologists were out in the soaking wet woods of Dorchester County. They were looking for the cabin that belonged to Harriet Tubman's father, Ben Ross. They were digging thousands of holes in the muck. Finally, they found some artifacts, enough to become confident that they had found that house. But the research continued, and they found another structure. And in that structure, something very special. Take a look at this. The archaeologists believe this is what's called a West African spirit cache, essentially items that allowed people to have a connection to essentially their souls and where they were from. Among them, take a look at this, a heart-shaped perfume bottle stopper. Well, today all of this was revealed to the public. Maryland Governor Wes Moore, paying a visit to this location, moved by seeing and touching these items.
It's overwhelming. It's this constant reminder of where we come from, and I think it's also there's a beauty in our journey, but also I think there's a reminder of our impermanence.
And again, here is that cache. You can see pieces of pottery, a button in here, some nails, all things, we say, that helped people stay in touch with who they really were in this horrible time in our nation's history. In Dorchester County, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
Should there be restrictions on young people using social media? The concerns over their mental health and the possibility of a law to keep them offline. And we're learning more about the victims and the shooter tonight. The latest on the horrific Michigan State University shooting.
And a gorgeous day today. And guess what? The nice weather stays through tomorrow, but then a chill down into the weekend, almost near normal. But I'll let you know if the bottom falls out anytime soon in the extended forecast. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast in a couple of minutes.
Fox 45 is following the latest on the Michigan State University shooting. Michigan State University police confirm a 43-year-old man with no connection to the university killed 3 people and sent 5 to the hospital. Police say he later took his own life. New details are emerging about the gunman suspected in Monday night's Michigan State University shooting. Well, according to the Michigan Department of Corrections, Dwayne McCray was arrested in 2019. He was charged with a felony for carrying a concealed weapon without a permit. However, he later pled guilty to a misdemeanor for possessing a loaded firearm. He was discharged after serving a year and a half on probation. One researcher argues this is part of a larger trend and says harsher punishments need to be handed out to offenders.
People who are brought in for crimes are incapacitated and not able to commit more crimes awaiting sentencing and trial. It's something that gets really overlooked in the pursuit of equity, and it leads to a lot of costs in terms of human lives, property damage, and just increasing crime.
Well, the state's Department of Corrections says there were no issues during McCray's probation. McCray was able to legally possess firearms in the state of Michigan. President Biden and the First Lady are speaking out on the shooting. In a statement, they say they're praying for the students killed and the students still fighting for their lives. The president goes on to say Congress must take action and enact common sense gun law reform. Today marks 5 years since a gunman killed 17 students and staff and injured 17 others at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. You can see students at Silver Shores Elementary School in nearby Miramar, Florida, creating a giant heart to honor the victims of the shooting. The gunman was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The shooting sparked bipartisan legislation that raised the age to buy firearms in Florida and increase mental health resources.
Taking a look outside on this Valentine's Day. Get out there, enjoy it. Maybe a little early dinner out on the porch or out at one of the outdoor eateries with 60 right now. Some high clouds rolling over. Those will thicken later on tonight, and there actually is a chance of rain by the time the night is through. Winds are calm, humidity only 21% in that Toyota Eastern Harbor Skycam. Just want to bottle that up and keep it. Temperature now at 60 here in Laurel, 60 in Baltimore, 60 at Cockeysville, and a nose of 50s north and east of that. And you can see there are a couple of clouds as we take a look at the entire state kind of working in and wafting in from the south and west. Otherwise, unless you're right near the water, everybody's generally in the 50s and the 60s, which is about 20 degrees warmer than average for mid-February. Now, our next weather maker, there it is, St. Louis all the way down to Memphis. There's some pretty good rain coming down. Now, the eastern edge of some of this is going to be hauling eastbound and could ruin this very nice weather pattern that we've got around here, at least briefly for tonight into tomorrow. You'll see on the western side of this thing, man, it's all out wintertime. Places like Portland as well, Seattle threatened by snow today. Eastern side of the country, totally different story. This warm front that's down to the south, you see that red line with the little barbs on it right here, right around Atlanta. That's going to haul its way northbound and let us in on even milder air yet. Maybe adding another 5 to 10 degrees to temperatures like you're seeing here at Atlanta, New Orleans, Dallas. Yep, there's a cold out to the west. And for now, that is where it is going to stay. That big winter weather system going to be impacting those folks. But around here, remaining warm and, in fact, getting even warmer for Wednesday into Thursday. Future scan overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. Some extra clouds. There are those sprinkles, especially right around midnight and just thereafter into early tomorrow morning. There's a sprinkle or light shower chance, especially as you get down, say, Gaithersburg, Laurel. There's a better chance of a little bit of rain. And then after that, it looks like by noontime, we're back into the 50s, even the 60s again tomorrow afternoon. And guess what? For Thursday, we do it all over again as we fall only into the 40s Wednesday night. And by Thursday afternoon, although there's some rain, looks like another day spent in the 60s there. So your extended forecast going to start off again with a morning shower or two after a late night shower tonight. For Wednesday, we're at 66, 65 Thursday, some scattered showers. And then Friday, it's a cooler day. I think temperatures put on the brakes, maybe even fall during the day with a high near 51. 48, a chillier day for Saturday, but we're back at it again Sunday and Monday. And notice this drop off here on Tuesday. I added that in 57 with some spot showers. Indications are for later February into early March, returns to more of a kind of typical wintry pattern around here. May actually fall below average a little bit. So there's going to be a few opportunities maybe to watch there for a return to colder weather and maybe even some wintry weather, too.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up at 5 o'clock, a woman critically hurt after someone shot into her home. The latest on the shooting investigation in Southeast Baltimore.
Social media platforms meant to help people connect, now being blamed for tearing them apart. I'm Christine Frizzell on Capitol Hill, where lawmakers say they are now ready to act.
It's being called an epidemic, part of a mental health crisis growing out of control among young people. Some parents are calling on Congress to do more. We're talking about social media. National correspondent Christine Frizzell reports.
The spotlight on social media, too late for the family of Adriana Kutch, seen here in this TikTok video being approached and later attacked in the hallway of her high school. Its posting on TikTok is what her parents say prompted her to then take her own life. The mother of an Oregon teen who died by suicide in 2020 said she had no idea about the cyberbullying he'd endured.
After his death, we discovered that Carson had received nearly 100 negative, harassing, sexually explicit, and humiliating messages.
Experts blaming the big tech business model, platforms designed to keep users engaged as long as possible, which translates to more data collected, more targeted ads pushed out, and more money brought in. And it's a strategy that appears to be working. A recent study showing a rapid rise in total screen use in 2021, reaching 5.5 hours a day for 8 to 12-year-olds and 8.5 hours a day for those 13 to 18 years old.
We have to do something, and the sooner the better.
That sentiment from both Democrats and Republicans following the release of a brand new survey from the CDC showing persistent levels of sadness and suicidal thoughts, especially among teenage girls.
The parallel between social engagement and these mental health
crisis that we see with our young people is just impossible to deny.
Congressman Chris Stewart proposing an outright ban of social media sites like Facebook and Instagram for all kids under 16 years old.
Republicans traditionally want the government out of their lives, want the government out of their business. Don't you think you're going to get some pushback from people who say this should be up to parents?
No, and I accept that. We allow other boundaries. The government has said you can't drive when you're 12. The government says you can't buy alcohol until you're an adult.
An idea once considered extreme, now becoming more mainstream at a time the devastating impacts of social media are also taking hold. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, we asked Mayor Brandon Scott about the 23 schools without any students able to do math at grade level. The latest on what the mayor says about those failing schools. And a school at risk of removal, closing. What the CEO of the Baltimore Collegiate School said for boys has to say about the threat of being closed.
At least 3 students killed on the campus of Michigan State University. How the school community is doing today and the new information on the suspect.
It's been the talk of the school that the possibility that we could get a recommendation of non-renewal for our charter.
A pending decision could close a high-performing charter school in Baltimore. We speak with school leaders ahead of a critical meeting tonight.
It's senseless. I can only imagine how I would feel if that was one of my family members.
A 51-year-old woman in Baltimore fighting for her life after somebody opened fire into her home. The investigation now underway.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Fox 45 News demanding answers on behalf of Baltimore students and families. 2,000 Baltimore students across high school, middle, and elementary schools cannot do math at their grade level. That is 23 schools across the city.
Fox 45 News is hearing from the community as we demand accountability and answers. We've taken these results to City Hall, and we've questioned state lawmakers. And tonight, Mayor Brandon Scott is addressing the findings. We have live team coverage. Maxine Stryker is standing by live with the decision that could force a well-performing charter school in Baltimore to close.
First, Mackenzie Frost is live after questioning Mayor Scott today. Mackenzie, the mayor's been pretty much ignoring your questions for days now. Did you finally get him to talk?
Mary, yeah, we did. We went to another event and we had the opportunity to ask him some questions. And Mayor Brandon Scott says that it's really on everyone to ensure that students are performing well in the classroom. But he also says that these test results were predictable. And if that's the case, we asked him if this was expected. How come more wasn't done to ensure these students were prepared for these tests? For days, Fox 45 News has been sending questions to Mayor Brandon Scott, asking about the 23 schools without anyone able to do math at grade level. Mayor Brandon Scott and his team simply ignoring the questions until now.
To see our neighbors.
Mayor Scott demanding to take the questions at a podium at an unrelated event.
Speak now because I have to leave right after.
How do you defend those results, and do you believe that there should be a change in leadership at city schools?
Well, I think a couple of things on that, Mackenzie. The reality is, despite you guys' inability to say it, that city schools, like school districts across these United States of America, have been experiencing decreases in math results between 2019 and 2022.
The mayor coming prepared with a list of talking points, pointing to data.
The district's rate of change in both math and ELA from 2019 were better than the state of Maryland.
And attacking Fox 45 News instead of talking about immediate solutions.
You guys are choosing to focus on a data point from that recent assessment instead of telling the full story.
That statement similar to the one Baltimore City Public Schools posted on social media. Despite the fact that 2,000 students are unable to perform proficiently in math in high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools across Baltimore. The mayor also says the fact that Baltimore City ranks last in the entire state of Maryland in the math scores isn't a shock.
That's no surprise to anybody. This is what we should be talking about here. We knew that this would happen.
If you say this was predictable, then why wasn't anything done to ensure these students didn't test this poorly?
I think I'll just say, Mackenzie, that in my response, I already gave you a response, right? And again, you comparing to one, I said the state, jurisdictions across the state and how city schools have made progress. And they did a lot of work, right?
Mayor Scott leaving the event before we could ask even more questions. Given the city's history of ghost students, grade changing, and students graduating unprepared, we followed up with the mayor's office, sending an email asking, do you support criminal fraud investigations into possible misuse of tax dollars? On the east side of town, Baltimore Collegiate School for the Boys at risk of losing its charter for what the leader of the school calls technicalities. So we also asked the mayor, should the schools without students testing proficient in math also be shut down? Despite promising a response, the mayor's office not answering the questions by news time. The mayor saying everyone needs to do their part to help city schools, while the families living with the reality of unprepared students.
I can't afford no $1,000 tutor from Sylvan, but that's what he needs.
They're left wondering.
I feel like they don't care. It's not their children. They don't care.
When or if anything will change in Baltimore City public schools. Now, Councilman Robert Stokes, he chairs the Education, Youth, and Workforce Committee. He tells me that he does plan to call a hearing to bring in the CEO of City Schools, Dr. Sonia Santelises, to get some answers about these math proficiency scores. But Councilman Stokes says that that hearing likely won't take place until April. We're live in Baltimore. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, every school system in Maryland takes state testing. Baltimore City was not the only school system with concerning scores. In Baltimore County, we found 7 schools with 0 students who tested proficient in math. That includes Chesapeake, Pikesville, and Randallstown High. There were another 10 schools with just 1 or 2 students proficient in math. We dug into the MCAP results for 8th graders and found with 8,500 8th graders tested in math, just 684 students were proficient. That's just 8%, meaning 92% of all 8th graders tested in Baltimore County are not doing math at grade level.
That is a total failure of a totally failed education system where, as I said before, finally something needs to be done. And collectively with the politicians to get together to say we need a new direction.
In a statement to our Project Baltimore team, Baltimore County Schools said it is working urgently to improve and accelerate student learning.
Right now, Baltimore City Charter School's future is hanging in the balance. Its fate will be left up to the School Board of Commissioners to decide whether or not to revoke the charter for Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker visited the school today. She joins us live with some new insight. Maxine?
Well, Kai, the CEO for the Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys says that Baltimore City Schools is threatening to shut them down over what he says are just technicalities. The Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners is hearing from City Schools CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises right now, who will give her recommendation on whether or not the all-boys charter school should shut down. Edwin Avend, the school CEO, says their charter is in jeopardy, but the city's report claims the charter's teaching practices and staffing levels are also falling short. But Avend says the school has led many young men to success since they first opened and have a 95% high school graduation rate. In contrast, city public schools have just a 67% rate of student graduation.
In a city that's desperate, in my opinion, for good news stories, particularly around young African American males, when we don't have as many recreation centers or as many activities as we could to try and help the community, to take one more away, one I think shining light in the city away that's helping African American boys would be tragic.
Now, on Thursday, Baltimore Collegiate will be given just 4 minutes to plead their case to the Board of Commissioners, and then the following Thursday, the 23rd, a choice will be made. Reporting live in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Maxine. That brings us to our question of the day. Should parents be given school choice if their child's school is failing? So far, 94% of voters say yes. You can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Well, breaking overnight, police say somebody opened fire into a home in southeast Baltimore, critically injuring a woman inside. And tonight, new questions are emerging. Alexa Ashwell talked with neighbors, joins us live with the latest on this investigation. Alexa?
Well, Mary, I want to point out first, you can see where some of those bullets pierced through the home here on North Clinton Street. Baltimore police say the 51-year-old woman was inside and hit by some of those bullets, but so far, no word on a suspect. Investigators returned to the home here to collect evidence and interview neighbors. Officers were called to the house just after 3:30 this morning. Inside, the department finding the woman with multiple gunshot wounds. Police have not yet released a motive in the shooting, nor said if they believe the woman was the intended target or if anyone else was inside the home at the time of the shooting. Neighbors say they're troubled, yet not surprised by this crime.
I can only imagine how I would feel if that was one of my family members.
I feel sorry for her. But like I say, sometimes you just get numb to this stuff around here, because it happens so much.
Another look at where some of those bullets entered the home here on North Clinton Street. Police have not yet identified the woman nor released any suspect information. Anyone with any information on this case is asked to call police. Reporting live in southeast Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. So far this year, 32 people have been killed in Baltimore. That is down by 16 from this point last year. Non-fatal shootings are also down. 56 people have been shot, a difference of 24 this time last year.
The Maryland Attorney General's office releases its report into a deadly police shooting in Towson last June. And a warning, the video you're about to see is disturbing.
Let me see your hands. Hands.
On June 4th, officers responded to an apartment at Virginia Towers for reports of a disturbance. In the body camera video from officers, you can see 66-year-old Joseph Robert Thompson answer the door, then point a handgun at officers. Thompson and officers Scott Johnson, Cody Klapka, and Robert Fitzgerald all fired their weapons. Thompson was hit 11 times, killing him. Officers later found a woman in the apartment who'd been shot. She told them Thompson shot her after she broke up with him. Baltimore County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger says he's not prosecuting the officers in the shooting. The Baltimore County Police detective who investigators say was shot by David Linthicum is reportedly improving. According to the president of the county FOP, doctors have removed Detective Jonathan Chee's breathing tube, and he's now able to talk. Linthicum is accused of shooting Detective Chee and another police officer. Just yesterday, Linthicum waived his bail review and will remain in custody until his preliminary hearing next month.
Well, 2 people accused of plotting to attack local power grids have been indicted. Sarah Clendaniel from Catonsville and Brandon Russell from Orlando, Florida, are charged with conspiracy to destroy an energy facility. The 2 were allegedly planning to destroy multiple electrical substations, including some in the Baltimore area, hoping to cause widespread power outages. If convicted, the 2 could each face up to 20 years in prison. Some new details about the man police say opened deadly fire last night at Michigan State University.
And we're learning more about the life of famed abolitionist Harriet Tubman. The new artifacts unveiled by the state on the Eastern Shore plantation where she was enslaved.
Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band are on the road for their international tour. What stops they've recently added that you can look forward to.
And an absolutely gorgeous Valentine's Day comes to an end this evening with more pretty nice temperatures falling from the 50s back into the 40s for maybe an evening dinner or some late night outings. Temperatures going to be a lot warmer tomorrow. Even then today, I'll let you know we could touch near 70. My Weather Authority forecast.
After hours of pure fear for so many Michigan State University students and their families, police say the campus is clear and secure.
MSU police confirm a 43-year-old man with no connection to the university sadly killed 3 people and sent 5 others to the hospital and later took his own life.
That's right. Mike Krafsik from our Sinclair sister station in Grand Rapids has developing information for us.
Crime scene tape still surrounds the MSU Student Union. This was where one of the students was shot and killed and others possibly injured. Tens of thousands of students on lockdown for hours during this reign of terror. A gunman upended their lives forever. A man his own father calls evil.
A memorial grows tonight on the Michigan State University campus, paying tribute to the victims lost in another senseless shooting in America.
I just got in my car, booked it out of the parking garage, got home, we shut all the blinds, me and my roommates turned off the lights, put chairs by the doors.
Literally everywhere we have people that we love, and nobody knows what's going on, so there's Nothing you can even say to make them feel better.
Students barricading themselves during the hours-long manhunt for 43-year-old Anthony McCrae, seen in this surveillance photo leaving the student union after the second round of shootings. Miles from campus as police rolled in, they say McCrae shot and killed himself around midnight. McCrae lived at this home in Lansing with his father, who tells news outlets his son became bitter, isolated, and evil angry after his mother died 2 years ago.
I'm blessed and I'm grateful that he didn't decide to do something around home, like he didn't take out his neighbors, take us out. It's, super unfortunate.
Neighbor Megan Bender says she watched as authorities searched the McCrae home last night. Ingham County court records show McCrae served less than 2 years probation after he pled guilty to 2 weapons charges in 2019. In that case, McCrae told police he was carrying an unregistered gun while walking to the store because he felt scared. 5 shooting victims remain in critical condition after being rushed to Sparrow Hospital in Lansing.
The individuals have varied injuries.
MSU student journalist Wally Kahn has been out gathering any details to report on the aftermath of the tragedy.
We were hiding in our house. Our lights were off. The dog was in her bed. I get a call and they said that they were from the Washington Post.
Kahn's reporting appearing in this morning's Washington Post. For him, this story hits close to home.
In many ways, I think I was reporting and running around trying to find out if any of my friends were dead.
MSU police say once they released the surveillance photo showing the suspect, that led to the very tag that allowed officers to figure out his location. In Lansing, I'm Mike Kravesick.
According to the Michigan Department of Corrections, Anthony McCrae was arrested in 2019. He was charged with a felony for carrying a concealed weapon without a permit. However, McCrae later pled guilty to a misdemeanor for possessing a loaded firearm instead. He was discharged after serving a 1.5 year probation. McCrae was able to legally possess firearms in Michigan after that time.
President Biden and the First Lady speaking out about the shooting. In a statement, they say they are praying for the students killed and the students still fighting for their lives. The president goes on to say Congress must take action and enact common sense gun law reform.
Today marks 5 years since a gunman killed 17 students and staff and injured 17 others at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Today, students created a giant heart to honor the victims of the shooting. The gunman, Nicholas Cruz, was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The shooting sparked bipartisan legislation that raised the age to buy firearms in Florida and increased mental health services and resources.
Well, turning our attention to the weather, you're looking at live conditions outside Ocean City, Towson, and Baltimore. After an absolutely beautiful day out there, we are tracking a weather maker that could bring us some showers tonight. But so far, we are enjoying warm temps, plenty of sunshine on this Valentine's Day.
And we know today is Valentine's Day. That's right. So let's take a look at some of those pictures. This one is from a viewer, Michael Dillard. It is a lot right now. He sent this message along with the pictures. Last minute is never too late on Valentine's Day in Abingdon, Maryland, for Cassandra, the love that completes me. Very nice. You can also show your Valentine's pictures. Go to foxbaltimore.com/chime-in or go through the mobile app.
It's not a lot. That's perfect,
No,
right?
perfect.
You can
Yes.
get 6 of those. That's perfect. Oh, my goodness. Well, happy Valentine's, gentlemen.
And Mother Nature is bringing us a Valentine's Day gift, too.
Yes,
We're
that's
all
true.
Mother Nature's Valentines today. Take a look at the sunshine. Now mixing with some clouds, so it's, I guess it's not as pretty as it was maybe an hour or two ago. It's going to get cloudier overnight. As we mentioned, there could be a risk of a couple of showers. It's not going to be a huge risk, but maybe about a 20% chance late night. And I think it's after really any activities are wrapped up. 55 winds out of the east-southeast at 9 miles an hour. Easily this time of year, instead of running and jogging weather, walking weather, we could have snow boots weather. So this is feeling good. Humidity 35%, hit a high of 60. Now dropped off a little bit, but still these numbers looking great across the board. And temperatures really all across the state gorgeous. We're melting snow up there toward Deep Creek Lake over at Oakland, right along the slopes of Wisp Ski Resort. Temperatures right now are in the 50s. We're in the 50s as well, except right near, say, North Beach, right along the influences of the bay. It's a little bit cooler. Outside of that, just a gorgeous day. And there are some clouds, though, now beginning to move in, and it's a sign of change. It's the next weather maker. There it is. Complex snow. I mean, it's been snowing, if you wouldn't believe it, on the Las Vegas Strip today. Not accumulating, but snowing. So it's certainly cold on the west side of this east side. Near record warmth. We've got that warm temperature regime, warm temperature pattern. It's been with us past couple of days. Will continue. Actually gets even warmer as this warm front to our south moves through tonight with a slim chance, as we mentioned, of a shower into tomorrow morning. And thereafter, look at these warm temperatures down to the south. 60, near 70. We should be in the mid to upper 40s this time of year. So there's that risk of a shower overnight into early tomorrow. Sunshine comes back tomorrow afternoon. But the next bigger weather maker arrives from the west. That's actually what's helping to give that snow down Las Vegas way. That is going to be moving toward us as we head into Thursday. Thursday, later in the day, some heavier rain. And it looks like maybe into Friday as well, and a cool down into the early weekend. Sprinkle chance, there it is after midnight tonight. Temperature is going to be in the 40s when you wake up by tomorrow afternoon. Look at those temperatures off to the races again with sunshine well into the 60s. And it looks like we do it again, at least temperature-wise, on Thursday. But there's that rain rolls in early, and it could even be heavy as we head into our Thursday afternoon. 7-day forecast, mid to upper 60s both Wednesday and Thursday, way above where we should be. Showers end Friday morning. Cooler sunshine Saturday, and back at it with 50s Sunday through next week.
Jonathan, thank you. Well, the Baltimore Ravens announced they have hired a new offensive coordinator. In a statement posted on Twitter, head coach John Harbaugh said the team conducted 21 interviews with 14 candidates and then chose Todd Monken. He is former offensive coordinator for the University of Georgia, the Cleveland Browns, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And some big news for Camden Yards. Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band will perform there on September 9th. Springsteen added 18 additional shows to his 2023 international tour of the E Street Band. Orioles chairman and CEO John Angelo says they will play their first ever outdoor stadium show in Baltimore at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. It is such a great venue to see Springsteen, Paul McCartney, Billy Joel. They've all been there. Well, we're following plans for redistricting in Anne Arundel County schools. What we're learning about the parents' roles in redrawing lines. Congress begins an investigation into objects flying high above our nation, the lingering questions. And the community in Ohio coming forward with health problems after the train derailment last week, what they're dealing with. Back now with the Fox 45 Quad Box. Some Ohio residents are complaining about health problems like difficulty breathing following last week's train derailment. Crews had to burn toxic chemicals being carried by the train after it derailed in eastern Ohio. The U.S. has renewed its vow to defend the Philippines. The State Department saying the U.S. will honor its treaty to defend Filipino forces if they come under attack in the South China Sea. Former Vice President Mike Pence will fight a subpoena from the special counsel investigating Donald Trump and his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Pence is arguing he was president of the Senate at that time, and that would shield him because of the separation of powers. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley has officially announced her presidential run. She is the first major candidate to challenge former President Trump for the GOP nomination in 2024. Haley served as Trump's ambassador to the United Nations. Be the first to know about breaking news by signing up for News on the Go. Go to foxbaltimore.com. Click on Mobile Alert Sign Up under the Station tab. Baltimore City leaders are gathered right now. The decision that could close a well-performing charter school and why. Anne Arundel County is moving forward with plans to redistrict school boundaries, what we know so far. And digging through history, the new revelations coming to light on the Eastern Shore plantation where Harriet Tubman lived.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
A recommendation being put before Baltimore City school commissioners tonight could shut down a well-performing charter school. Now, this is a live look at that meeting.
And as we've been reporting, the fate of Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys hangs in the balance. City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises is at that meeting we're looking at live, and she will make her recommendation to the board this hour. Joining us live in studio is former City Council member Carl Stokes. Carl, thank you for coming by. Clearly a big decision for Boys Collegiate. If City Schools ends up revoking its charter, should they be doing the very same thing for the 20-plus city schools that have zero proficiency in math?
Well, of course they should, but this is, they're not even on the same par, to be frank with you. The Collegiate School for Boys is doing an excellent job of nurturing, educating, supporting discipline, and bringing these boys along so that they're becoming good citizens, even as we speak. The 23 or so schools where they have zero, and I've never heard that number in the entire history of me working with schools, zero students who are proficient in math, and in some cases very low in English or language arts. And of course, those schools and the CEO should be judged and evaluated on what she's doing with the greater number of schools.
Carl, what do you think is going on here? Why do you think a school that would have good graduation rates, good admission to college would be shut down? And we want to point out to our viewers that you yourself founded and ran the Banneker Blake Academy, which was also shut down several years ago.
Yeah, I found it was very political. The CEO told me that she was closing the school for personal reasons, political reasons, as a matter of fact. And I think that's the same thing going on here. I think you have a school that is working very well. They do follow the rules as much as they can. And when I say as much as they can, they are dotting their I's, they're crossing their T's, but they're not always kowtowing to North Avenue. In other words, they have rules, they have discipline there. Oftentimes, North Avenue tells a school to not discipline children. It tells a school to keep people on the books who no longer are there. It tells a school, in fact, to pass students who have not done the work to pass on to the next grade. And there's a bit of corruption that's involved here. And a school like Collegiate doesn't play the corruption game, and so they are asked to leave the system.
Carl, what was your experience when you talked with reporters when you were going through this very same process with Banneker Blake?
Yeah, we did work with this process, and it was a horrible experience. First of all, tonight, the young men and the men from Collegiate are going to get 4 minutes to present their case, a case that the school system has spent the last year or so putting it together against them with no real evidence of wrongdoing or no real failure in the school. But as they say, they've missed a few T's and not dotted every I. And so this is a set up to fail situation. It is not a true and honorable process.
Edwin Avon seems a little caught off guard, as you probably have heard in his interviews, Carl, by the idea that they only have 4 minutes to plead their case. It does seem doesn't seem quite fair. What should parents, Mr. Stokes, be able to say in terms of the defense of this school? Because just like with your school, with Banneker Blake,
right,
if this school shuts down, these boys need some place to go. And what should parents' role be in all of this?
Well, the parents should have actually the final say, and not the system who intends to kill a good school while their own schools. Don't they think that they have enough of schools that are not failing under their own purview, that they should be taking care of those? The parents, back to your question, should be saying, this is what we want. This is what we've paid for, not in the same way that they're private schools, but through their taxpayer dollars. And so parents should be able to say, we like this school for our children, and we want to keep this school open for our children.
It's traumatic when a school shuts down. We will see what happens.
Yeah, we will indeed. Thank you so much. Former Baltimore City Council member and founder of the Banneker Blake Academy, Carl Stokes. Thank you so much, Mr. Stokes.
Thank you.
That brings us to our question of the day. Should parents be given school choice if their child's school is failing? So far, 94% of voters say yes. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
And Fox 45 News is following redistricting plans in Anne Arundel County schools. The proposed changes on this map will divide the county into northern and southern districts. County Executive Stuart Pittman says that change will help with transportation issues and inconsistent class sizes across the school system.
It's something they have to do because we do have 16,000 empty seats and we have overcrowded schools. So some schools don't have enough, some have too many, and we have a couple of new schools opening, which requires the school board to redistrict.
Well, Pittman says the current proposal is nowhere near a final plan, and parents will be able to voice their concerns. Comment sessions and hearings will likely be held this summer.
After a hearing last night in Annapolis, the committee decided to wait before making a decision on the governor's pick to lead the Department of Juvenile Services, Vincent Schiraldi. While Schiraldi has worked in multiple corrections departments and social work research facilities, some are taking issue with comments he's made related to when people should be charged as adults. Once writing, it may not be appropriate to do so until a person is 25. During last night's meeting, Schiraldi was pressed on what he will do to address Baltimore City's growing crime crisis.
What are your specific plans and approaches to violent juveniles?
If they're in custody, I want to expand the kinds of programs that are going to help those young people turn their lives around. The ones that are in the community, again, we need high-intensity wraparound services for the highest-risk young people.
The committee voted to hold off its vote until additional senators can meet with him individually. Representatives say the committee's nomination vote could come later this week before going to the full Senate for a vote.
All Baltimoreans deserve to live in safe, affordable housing. Our neighbors experiencing homelessness are valuable members of our communities, and the onus to support them lies within each one of us.
Today, Mayor Brandon Scott and local leaders said the city is making progress in its efforts to end homelessness and increase the supply of affordable housing. In 2022, the city joined the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in an all-hands-on-deck effort to address the nation's homeless crisis.
And I'm pleased to announce today that we didn't just meet our goals, we beat our goals here in Baltimore. In 2022, Baltimore housed 1,443 households, and we are tracking over 2,500 units of affordable housing in various stages from concept to occupancy in our development pipeline.
Baltimore initially set a goal to ensure housing to at least 1,000 families experiencing homelessness and to add at least 1,600 new units of affordable housing.
Happening today, a water main break causing traffic delays and road closures in Baltimore County. Philadelphia Road between Notting Ridge and White Marsh Boulevard is shut down. The York Road Bridge over Western Run will be closed overnight as well as they make repairs. Well, a significant find on Maryland's Eastern Shore.
And this is helping to tell the story of Harriet Tubman and prompting Governor Wes Moore to stress the importance of preserving and teaching Black history.
Brad Bell from our Sinclair sister station in Washington, D.C. has the story for us.
Okay, the treasures. All right.
Governor Wes Moore and state archaeologist Julie Shablitsky pulling back the curtain on a chapter of Maryland history, unveiling new discoveries in the effort to tell the story of Harriet Tubman's life before she led dozens of people to freedom on the Underground Railroad. For Moore, an emotional experience.
Part of the beauty of our journey is that we can be and we should be a society that understands and appreciates our history because it is the foundation for our future.
This story actually begins a few years ago with archaeologists led by Shablitsky searching the swampy woods of Dorchester County for the home of Tubman's father, Ben Ross. They found it in 2021 but kept looking. The search turned up another dwelling, and in that home they found artifacts believed to be a so-called West African spirit cache, a link to Africa in 1800s Maryland. And here are the items from that West African spirit cache. You can see pieces of pottery, a button inside here, nails, and take a look at this, a heart-shaped perfume bottle stopper. You can only imagine who once owned and who held this.
Individually, those individual artifacts mean nothing alone, but together they are power.
Shablitsky explaining the colors and materials held deep spiritual meaning.
And it was a way for them to exert some sort of power over their life since they had no power over their own directly because they were enslaved.
Governor Moore holding the artifacts himself, describing the feeling as humbling and powerful, stressing the importance of learning and preserving Black history.
We're here in this celebration of a legacy of Harriet Tubman and so many other people who fought to ensure that freedom could be felt by everybody. That is not a condemnation of our history. That's a celebration of our history.
At the Harriet Tubman National Visitor Center, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
During the month of February, we are celebrating Black History Month by highlighting champions of courage in our neighborhoods. Tonight on the News at 10, the story of a man who has been building up our community through karate for over 5 decades.
A key indicator of inflation and the state of the economy is released, what Americans are spending their money on.
I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with the latest on a closed-door briefing on Capitol Hill about American fighter jets shooting down foreign aircraft and pressure on President Biden to share what's happening with the American public. That coming up.
And if you're going to be headed out for Valentine's Day this evening, your night out forecast. Yes, I know it's only a Tuesday, but a lot of folks going to be out there. 48 degrees at 7 p.m. Temperatures falling to 44 at 10. No chance of rain, but clouds increasing. I'll let you know when rain chances do become a part of our forecast and if it impacts your commuting. My Weather Authority forecast.